The morning light spilled across the narrow streets of Brooklyn, where Emma Moore and her daughter Lily lived in a modest apartment that had become both fortress and prison. The building was old, its walls lined with the faint scent of years gone by, and the thin curtains swayed gently whenever a breeze slipped through the cracked window frame. Emma had lived there for almost 7 years, ever since she walked away from a life she thought would destroy her. It wasn't much, but it was safe. And in safety she had found a rhythm that let her raise her daughter without the shadows of the past. Consuming her, Emma's mornings always began the same way: a soft alarm, a tired stretch, the sound of Lily's footsteps scurrying into the kitchen. Lily, with her bright blue eyes and messy brown hair, was a child who carried light even into the dullest corners of life. She sat at the table, drawing, her pencils worn down to tiny stubs, yet her imagination never ran dry. Emma often stood behind her daughter, watching quietly as shapes and colors bloomed on the page. It reminded her of innocence, of the small joys that existed even when the adult world felt unbearably heavy. "Mum," Lily said one morning, lifting her paper proudly, "do you like it? It's us. I drew us in front of our apartment, and see, that's a dog. Someday we should get one." Emma forced a smile, her chest tightening. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Maybe one day we will." But even in Lily's simple request, Emma heard the echo of what was missing. There was no father in the picture, no tall figure standing beside them, just mother, daughter, and an imagined pet. And while Lily didn't always ask, the silence in the drawing spoke louder than words. Emma tried to distract her daughter with breakfast, pouring cereal into 2 chipped bowls and setting them down on the table. Lily dug in happily, swinging her feet under the chair, while Emma watched with a mixture of pride and sorrow. She had built a world for Lily, one where love existed without luxury, where stability came not from wealth but from sacrifice. And yet, despite her efforts, the question always hovered in the air, like smoke from a candle. Where is he? Who is he? Why isn't he here? The answer was Damien Stone, a man Emma had once loved with every piece of her soul, a man who had chosen ambition over her, power over family, success over love. And though Emma had promised herself never to let his name touch Lily's lips, the child's eyes, his eyes, betrayed the truth every single day. Later that morning, Emma walked Lily to school, her hand gripping the small, warm fingers that trusted her completely. The streets were alive with the noise of honking horns, chatter from sidewalk vendors, and the endless rhythm of a city that never paused. Lily chattered excitedly about her art project, her friends, and the snacks she hoped to trade at lunchtime. Emma responded with gentle nods, her smile reserved but tender. She was always listening, always present, because she knew she had to be both parents in one. When they reached the school gate, Lily turned and asked suddenly, "Mum, do you think my dad would like my drawing too?" The question sliced Emma in half. She knelt down, brushing a stray hair from Lily's forehead, and forced her voice to stay steady. "Sweetheart, your dad, he lives far away. But I promise, if he saw it, he would think it's perfect." It wasn't a lie, not completely. Emma believed Damien would admire Lily's drawing if he ever knew she existed. But lies mixed with truths had become Emma's survival, a way to protect her daughter from a world that could hurt her as much as it had hurt Emma when Lily disappeared into the school. Emma stood there for a moment, her heart aching. She turned away quickly, heading toward the hospital where she worked. The routine was her anchor: 12-hour shifts, endless patience, a blur of voices and emergencies. Being a nurse gave her purpose, and in those hours she could bury the questions that plagued her personal life. But fate had a cruel way of reminding her of the past. That afternoon, while Emma ate a quick sandwich in the staff lounge, the television caught her attention. There, on the screen, was Damien Stone, her past made flesh and blood. He stood before reporters in a flawless black suit, his voice steady, his expression controlled. The news anchors spoke of his billion-dollar empire, his latest deal with the government, his role as one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. Emma froze. Around her, co-workers whispered admiration, marveling at his charisma. To them, Damien was untouchable, a figure of awe. To Emma, he was a scar she had never fully healed from. Her hands trembled as she turned away, whispering to herself, "He's not part of our lives. Not anymore." Yet even as she said it, her chest betrayed her, because she knew, deep down, that no matter how far she ran, Damien Stone was never truly gone. Half of him lived in Lily, and one day, no matter how much Emma resisted, the truth would find its way out. That night, after a long shift, Emma returned home, exhausted. The apartment was quiet, save for the muffled hum of the city outside and the faint sound of cartoons from the living room. Lily had already changed into her pajamas, curled up on the couch with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. She looked up when Emma entered, her face lighting up with the kind of joy that melted away every ounce of fatigue. "Mum, you're home." Lily jumped up, running into her mother's arms. Emma bent down, hugging her tightly, burying her face in her daughter's hair. "I missed you too, sweetheart," Emma whispered, her voice catching more than she intended. After dinner, simple pasta with jarred sauce, they sat together on the couch. Lily drew again, sketching their tiny family in different ways, sometimes with balloons, sometimes with flowers, sometimes in places they'd never been. Emma watched, her heart both swelling and breaking at the sight. "Do you ever wish we lived in a big house?" Lily asked suddenly, not looking up from her drawing. "Like Ava's. She says her dad buys her anything she wants." Emma forced a laugh. "Big houses need a lot of cleaning. We'd get lost in all the rooms. I think our home is perfect because it's ours." Lily smiled, satisfied for now, but Emma felt the sting. She knew her daughter wasn't jealous, just aware of the differences between her life and others. And Emma also knew those questions would only grow harder with time, later. After Lily fell asleep, Emma sat alone at the small kitchen table. Bills were spread before her, rent, utilities, medical expenses. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion seeping into her bones. The numbers barely added up, as always. She would manage. She always managed, but the weight of it pressed down like an endless storm. Her eyes drifted to the window, where the city skyline glowed in the distance. Somewhere out there, Damien Stone lived in a world of glass towers and glittering lights. He dined in expensive restaurants, drove sleek cars, and commanded respect wherever he went. Did he ever think of her? Of what they once had? Of the life he never knew existed, his daughter asleep just a few feet away? Emma shook the thought away. She couldn't allow herself to dwell. The past was a wound she had stitched closed, and reopening it would destroy everything she had fought to build. Yet, as she rose to check on Lily, Emma couldn't help but pause at her daughter's bedside. She brushed a kiss across her forehead, whispering a promise only the night could hear. "I'll protect you, no matter what. You'll never know the pain I did, but even promises had limits." And though Emma clung to the belief that she could control their fate, destiny had already begun to stir. Threads were weaving together, drawing Damien closer to the truth he had been denied for 7 years. The next morning, life resumed its rhythm. Emma prepared Lily for school, packed her lunch, and walked her to the gate. But this time, as she turned to leave, a sleek black car caught her eye. It was parked across the street, tinted windows reflecting the morning sun. Something about it made her uneasy. She shook the feeling away, convincing herself it was nothing. Yet as she walked to the hospital, the thought lingered like a shadow. Inside the city's grand towers, Damien Stone sat in his office high above Manhattan. The world knew him as a titan of industry, a man who shaped markets and commanded empires. But beneath the polished exterior, a restlessness gnawed at him. He had everything: wealth, power, respect, but nights were cold, mornings were empty, and silence often swallowed him whole, in rare moments of solitude. He remembered Emma. He remembered her laughter, the warmth of her touch, the way she had believed in him when no one else did. He remembered, too, the night she left. He had told himself he didn't need her, that his empire was all that mattered. But as the years passed, that lie grew harder to believe. Now, as he stared out at the skyline, Damien felt the strangest pull, as if something unfinished waited for him, just beyond his reach. He didn't know it yet, but that pull was Lily, his daughter, his blood, a truth hidden in plain sight, and soon, no matter how hard Emma fought, their worlds would collide again. The weekend arrived with a crisp autumn chill, the kind that carried both promise and unease. Emma bundled Lily in a cozy jacket and walked her through the neighborhood, trying to savor the normalcy of simple errands. They stopped at the corner bakery, where the smell of fresh bread lingered in the air, and Lily pressed her nose to the glass to admire the rows of pastries. "Can we get the chocolate croissant this time?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with hope. Emma hesitated, calculating silently in her head. The croissant was a small luxury, a few dollars more than she had planned to spend, but the sparkle in her daughter's eyes was priceless. "All right," Emma said, smiling softly. "1 chocolate croissant for the young lady." Lily beamed, hugging her mother tightly. "You're the best." Moments like these filled Emma with a bittersweet joy. She had sacrificed so much, fought so hard, just to give Lily a normal childhood. Yet beneath the smiles, Emma carried a constant fear, the fear that one day Damien would discover the truth and everything she had built would crumble. Later that afternoon, Rachel, an old friend from nursing school, called Emma with an invitation. Her wedding was in 2 weeks, a grand ceremony in one of Manhattan's most luxurious hotels. Emma hesitated immediately. Weddings meant crowds, cameras, and a world far above her modest life. But Rachel had been there for her through thick and thin, and Emma couldn't refuse. "Please, Emma," Rachel insisted over the phone. "It wouldn't be the same without you. And I'd love to finally meet Lily. She's practically family to me." Emma bit her lip, torn between gratitude and dread. "All right," she said finally. "We'll be there." That night, as she tucked Lily into bed, Emma wondered if she had made a mistake. The thought of stepping back into a glittering world filled with wealth and opulence made her stomach twist. But she told herself it was only for one night, only for Rachel. Damien belonged to another universe entirely. There was no reason for their paths to cross again, but fate had other plans. On the night of the wedding, the hotel ballroom shimmered with crystal chandeliers, white roses, and the polished laughter of Manhattan's elite. Emma walked in, holding Lily's hand tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. She wore a simple blue dress, elegant enough to fit in, but understated enough to avoid attention. She had spent hours convincing herself that no one would notice her, that she was invisible in this sea of glitter. Lily, however, was dazzled. "Mum, this looks like a palace," she whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Emma forced a smile, though her stomach churned. "Remember, sweetheart, we're here for Rachel. Nothing else matters." They found their table and settled in, but Emma's unease only grew. The orchestra played softly, the guests mingled effortlessly, and everywhere she looked, she felt the sting of not belonging. She tried to distract herself by focusing on Lily, who happily nibbled on a dinner roll, swinging her legs beneath the chair. And then it happened. From across the room, Emma's gaze landed on a figure standing on the stage. Damien Stone. He was taller than she remembered, his presence commanding, his black suit tailored to perfection. His expression was composed, unreadable, but when his eyes swept across the room and locked onto hers, Emma's world shattered. Damien froze. His gaze flicked from Emma's face to the little girl at her side. For a moment, the carefully constructed mask he wore in public faltered. His breath caught, his jaw tightened, and though he didn't move, Emma could see it in his eyes. Recognition. Lily glanced between them curiously. "Mum, who's that man? Why is he looking at us?" Emma's throat closed. She forced a smile, gripping her daughter's hand. "Just someone I used to know." But Damien had already begun moving. Through the crowd, deliberate and steady, he approached their table. Conversations faltered, heads turned, and Emma's pulse roared in her ears. When he finally stopped before them, his voice was low but firm, edged with disbelief. "Emma," he paused, his eyes burning into hers. "Who is the child?" Emma's spine stiffened. She met his gaze with cold defiance, though her hands trembled beneath the table. "That's none of your business." Lily blinked up at them, sensing the tension but not understanding. "Mum, what's going on?" Emma squeezed her daughter's hand tighter. "Nothing, sweetheart. Nothing at all." But Damien's chest constricted. The child's face, those unmistakable blue eyes, it was like looking into a mirror of his own childhood. The truth screamed within him, undeniable and merciless. Yet Emma's silence built a wall he couldn't break. Later, overwhelmed, Damien slipped out to the balcony. The city lights glittered below, but all he saw were memories. Emma laughing in her tiny apartment, cooking dinner after his long workdays. Emma folding paper cranes, telling him wishes could come true if you believed hard enough. Emma walking away with a suitcase in her hand, tears streaking her face. He had let her go. He hadn't stopped her. And now, standing in the cold night air, he realized the cost 7 years lost. And perhaps a child he had never known, inside. Emma tried to remain invisible, but Damien returned, sitting across from them with a determination that rattled her. His voice was low, filled with a dangerous calm. "We need to talk, now. Not here," Emma hissed. Not in front of her. Before either could say more, Lily piped up innocently. "Mister, are you famous? Everyone keeps staring at you." Damien's lips twitched into a strained smile. "Something like that. But none of it matters compared to what I've missed." Whispers spread through the ballroom. Guests were watching, murmuring, sensing the storm building. Emma stood abruptly, gripping Lily's hand. "We're leaving." But Damien blocked her path, his voice raw. "Not this time, Emma. I won't let you walk away again." The tension inside the ballroom grew heavier with every passing second. Emma's hand tightened around Lily's, but the little girl tilted her head, still trying to understand what all the fuss was about. The orchestra continued to play, yet the music felt distant. Drowned beneath the weight of a storm, only 3 people in the room truly understood. "Damien," Emma whispered harshly, her voice sharp but trembling. "Move, you're making a scene." His eyes, however, never left hers. 7 years, Emma. 7 years you disappeared. And now this. He glanced briefly at Lily, then back at Emma, his jaw taut. "Do you really expect me to believe she isn't mine?" Emma's breath hitched, but she forced her features into an icy mask. "Believe whatever you want. But don't you dare drag my daughter into this." "Our daughter," Damien shot back, his voice low and dangerous. Emma flinched as if struck, but before she could respond, Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, why is he saying that? Who is he?" Emma bent down quickly, brushing her daughter's cheek. "No one, sweetheart. Just someone from a long time ago." But Damien's chest tightened as he heard the words. No one. Was that what he had become to her? No one. His empire meant nothing in that moment. His wealth, his power, none of it mattered. All that mattered was the little girl standing between them, a living reminder of what he had lost, before another word could be spoken. The waiter brought out the wedding cake, cutting through the suffocating silence. Guests clapped, laughter resumed, and the ballroom seemed to breathe again. Emma seized the opportunity, pulling Lily toward the door. "Emma," Damien called after her, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. They nearly made it out when Lily tugged free. "Mum, wait, I want cake." Emma turned back, but in that instant the unimaginable happened. Lily, excited and distracted, grabbed a forkful too big and began to choke. Her small hands flew to her throat, her face reddening, eyes wide with panic. "Lily!" Emma screamed, her voice raw with terror. The crowd erupted into chaos. People shouted, some froze, others rushed forward but didn't know what to do. And then Damien was there. He pushed through the onlookers, his movements swift, precise, decisive. "Give her to me," he barked. Emma hesitated for a split second, fear and distrust warring inside her. But instinct won. This was about Lily's life. She surrendered her daughter into Damien's arms. He wrapped his arms around Lily and performed the Heimlich maneuver, firm and controlled. 1, 2, 3, thrust sand. Finally, the lodged piece of cake flew free. Lily gasped, coughing violently, tears streaming down her cheeks. The crowd exhaled as one, relief washing over them. But for Damien, the world had narrowed to the trembling child clinging desperately to him. "Daddy," she whispered hoarsely, the words slipping out before she even realized. The ballroom froze. Conversations died. Every head turned. Damien's eyes widened, his body going rigid as the single word echoed through the room. "Daddy." Emma's knees buckled, her heart breaking at the sound. The word she had kept locked away, the truth she had fought so hard to hide, had spilled out from the lips of a child who barely understood its meaning. Damien cradled Lily closer, his voice raw. "My son, my girl." His words cracked, but the certainty in his gaze was unshakable. Emma staggered forward, her voice trembling. "Damien, give her back." He looked at her, his eyes blazing with both fury and grief. 7 years, Emma. 7 years you kept her from me. Do you have any idea what you've done? Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. I did what I had to do. You weren't there. You never would have been there. You chose your empire over us. I couldn't let her grow up waiting for a father who would never come home. The murmurs of the crowd swirled around them, judgmental and curious. That's Damien Stone's child, Emma. Wasn't she the one who left him? Emma's shame burned hot, but her fury burned hotter. She pulled Lily. The night after the wedding was a blur of emotion. Emma barely remembered how she had managed to get home. She held Lily the entire cab ride, rocking her gently while the girl finally drifted into an exhausted sleep against her chest. Her mind replayed the word over and over, Daddy. It had come out so innocently, yet it had shattered the fragile world Emma had built like glass under a hammer. Inside the quiet apartment, Emma placed Lily in bed, pulling the blankets up to her chin. She sat there a long while, brushing strands of hair from her daughter's forehead, staring at those blue eyes even in sleep. Damien's eyes she could no longer deny. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She didn't need to check the screen to know who it was. For 7 years, Damien had been a ghost in her life, but now he was flesh and blood again, and he wouldn't let her vanish. Emma ignored the call. Then the next, and the next dot, when the knocking came at the door. Sharp and unyielding, she nearly jumped out of her skin. Her first instinct was to grab Lily and hide, but her pride anchored her feet to the ground. She opened the door a crack. Damien stood there. His suit jacket was gone, his tie loose, but his presence was no less commanding. His face was taut with emotion, anger simmering beneath the surface. Emma, his voice was low, hoarse, but firm. We need to talk. You shouldn't be here, Emma hissed. She glanced over her shoulder toward Lily's room. She's asleep. I don't care if it's 3 in the morning. You kept my daughter from me for 7 years. I'm not waiting another second. Emma stepped outside quickly, pulling the door shut behind her. The hallway was dim, flickering with weak fluorescent light. She crossed her arms, her voice clipped. Keep your voice down. I won't let you wake her. Damien took a step closer, lowering his tone but not his intensity. Why, Emma? Why didn't you tell me? Her throat tightened. Because you didn't want a family. Because you chose your empire. Do you even remember the last thing you said to me before I left? You told me not to bring distractions into your office anymore. That was me, Damien. I was the distraction. He flinched as if the words had cut him physically. For once, the CEO with answers for everything had nothing to say. Emma's voice shook, though her posture was strong. I couldn't let her grow up begging for scraps of your attention. I couldn't let her believe she was less important than your next deal. So I made the only choice I could. Damien raked a hand through his hair, his chest heaving. You don't get to make that choice alone. She's my daughter too. Emma's eyes blazed with tears. Then where were you when I was sick during the pregnancy? Where were you when I worked double shifts to afford formula? Where were you when she cried at night, asking for a father she never knew? You weren't there, Damien. I was. The hallway fell into silence, the weight of her words pressing between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Damien's fists unclenched slowly, his voice softer, almost broken. I can't change the past, Emma. I know that. But I can change the future. Please. Don't shut me out of her life. Emma swallowed hard, torn between fury and exhaustion. For the first time in years, she saw something raw in his eyes, not ambigish, not ambition, but desperation. A man stripped of power, standing only as a father. She shook her head. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I want to. But she didn't slam the door. And that was enough for Damien to hold on to hope. The days following the wedding carried a tension Emma could no longer ignore. Damien had not disappeared. He lingered at the edges of her life, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Some mornings, when she walked Lily to school, she would spot the sleek black car parked discreetly down the block. Other times, as she left the hospital late at night, she would see him waiting across the street, his figure lit faintly by the glow of a He never approached recklessly, never stormed into her space. But his presence was constant, a silent reminder that he would not let go. Emma hated the way it unsettled her, hated the way her pulse quickened whenever she caught sight of him. And most of all, she hated the flicker of relief she felt, because for once, Damien wasn't ignoring her. For once, he was fighting. But the one who noticed the most was Lily. Mum, she asked one evening while colouring at the kitchen table, why is that man always nearby? The one from the wedding. Emma froze, her spoon halfway to her mouth. She forced herself to stay calm. He's someone I used to know. Remember, sweetheart? I told you. Lily set down her crayon, her brow furrowing. But he looked at me like he knew me. And when I called him Daddy, he didn't get mad. He hugged me. Emma's throat closed. She had hoped Lily wouldn't remember. But children remembered everything, especially the things parents wished they could erase. Sweetheart. Emma said carefully, sometimes grown-ups are complicated. That man, Damien, he knew me a long time ago. And yes, he is your father. But he hasn't been here. Not for a very long time. Lily's eyes widened. So it's true. Emma nodded slowly, her heart breaking. It's true. The little girl looked down at her drawing, silent for a long moment. Then she whispered, why didn't he want us? The words cut deeper than any knife. Emma rushed to her side, pulling her into her arms. Oh, baby, no. It's not like that. He didn't know. He didn't know about you. That's on me, not him. But even as she said it, Emma knew it was only half the truth. Damien had chosen his empire, yes, but she had also chosen silence. And now, both choices had led them here. Meanwhile, Damien wrestled with his own demons. For the first time in years, he found himself skipping board meetings, distracted in negotiations. His thoughts consumed not by numbers, but by the image of a little girl with his eyes. The empire he had built no longer felt like triumph, it felt hollow one evening. He stood in his penthouse, staring out at the skyline he had once conquered. His assistant entered, carrying a stack of files. But Damien barely glanced at them. Cancel tomorrow's meetings, he said abruptly. The assistant blinked. All of them, sir. Yes, all of them. Damien's jaw tightened. I have something more important to do. The next day, he showed up at Lily's school. He didn't approach her directly. He respected Emma's warning. Instead, he watched from across the street as the children spilled out onto the playground. When Lily's laughter rang out, pure and unguarded, it struck him harder than any boardroom victory. This was his daughter, his blood, and he had missed everything. That night, he called Emma. To his surprise, she answered. Emma, he said softly, I want to see her. Not at the wedding, not by accident. I want to spend real time with her." Emma's silence was heavy. "I don't know if I can trust you with that." "Then don't trust me," he said, his voice breaking. "Trust her. Let her decide." Emma closed her eyes, her chest aching. She wanted to scream at him, to slam the door again, to protect the fragile world she had built. But when she looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully, clutching her stuffed rabbit, she knew the truth. Her daughter deserved to know her father. Finally, she whispered, "1 hour, tomorrow, at the park." Damien's breath hitched, relief flooding through him. "Thank you." When the call ended, Emma sat alone in the dark, her heart pounding. She knew she was opening a door she could never close again, and part of her feared that once Damien stepped through, neither she nor Lily would ever be the same. The park was alive with the sounds of children laughing, dogs barking, and the faint hum of traffic beyond the trees. Emma sat on a bench near the playground, her eyes fixed on Lily, who was climbing the jungle gym with fearless determination. Every few moments, Emma's gaze flicked to the path leading into the park. She had agreed to this, but now, sitting here, her chest tightened with dread. When Damien appeared, dressed in a simple dark sweater and jeans, Emma's breath caught. He looked less like the untouchable CEO the world knew and more like a man stripped bare. For the first time, she realized he was nervous. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "Emma," his voice was quiet, almost hesitant. She gave a short nod, her arms folded protectively. "She's over there." His eyes followed hers, landing on Lily. The moment stretched, heavy with emotion. Damien's throat worked as he swallowed, his voice breaking. She's perfect." Emma's defenses wavered, but she quickly built them back up. "She's my whole world, and mine too," Damien whispered. Before Emma could respond, Lily spotted him. She ran across the grass, her ponytail bouncing, a wide grin lighting up her face. "You came," she exclaimed, breathless. Damien knelt instinctively, his arms opening. Lily barreled into him without hesitation, and he caught her, holding her close as though she were made of glass. The warmth of her small body against his chest shook him to his core. "Of course I came," Damien said, his voice trembling. "I wouldn't miss this for anything." Emma turned away, blinking rapidly. She had prepared herself for anger, for distance, for awkwardness. She hadn't prepared for this Lily embracing him so easily, Damien melting so quickly. For the next hour, Damien played with Lily as though he had been there all along. He pushed her on the swings, chased her around the playground, and listened intently as she chattered about her favorite cartoons and her art projects. Emma watched from the bench, torn between fear and something she didn't want to name. At one point, Lily climbed into Damien's lap, holding up her sketchbook. "Look, I drew another picture of us. This time, you're in it too." Damien's breath hitched as he looked at the drawing. A stick-figure family, Lily in the middle, Emma on one side, Damien on the other. 3 smiles drawn with bright, uneven lines. He traced the paper with his finger, his voice raw. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Emma stood abruptly, unable to watch any longer. "Time's up." Damien looked up, pain flashing across his face. "Emma, please, 1 hour." "That was the deal," she said sharply. She held out her hand for Lily. "Come on, sweetheart." "We have to go," Lily pouted, reluctant. "But Mum." "Now, Lily." Emma's tone left no room for argument. With a sigh, Lily hugged Damien tightly. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Damien's eyes locked with Emma's. His answer wasn't for Lily, it was for her. "Yes, you will." The walk home from the park was heavy with silence. Lily skipped ahead, humming to herself, blissfully unaware of the storm raging behind her mother's composed expression. Emma's hands clenched around the straps of her bag, her thoughts spinning in relentless circles. Damien's laughter with Lily, Lily's smile when she called him daddy, the drawing with 3 figures. A family that had never been whole. Emma had spent years convincing herself that she and Lily were enough, that they didn't need Damien, that they didn't need anyone. But today had proved something she wasn't ready to admit. Lily wanted him, and Damien, for all his faults, wanted her back. That night, after Lily was asleep, there was another knock on the door. Emma almost didn't answer, but something inside her knew he wouldn't give up. She opened it a crack to find Damien standing there again, his expression weary but determined. "Emma," he began, his voice low. "Please, just hear me out," she sighed, stepping into the hallway to avoid waking Lily. "You had your hour. What more do you want?" "I want to be her father," Damien said simply. "Not a visitor, not a stranger she sees once in a while. I want to be part of her life." Emma laughed bitterly. "And now you suddenly think you can play dad? After 7 years? Do you even know what she likes for breakfast? What her favorite bedtime story is? You've missed everything, Damien." His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "Then teach me. Let me catch up. I can't undo the past, but I can start now." Emma's eyes burned. "And when your empire demands more of you, when the next billion-dollar deal requires all your time, will you walk away again?" For once, Damien didn't answer immediately. He looked down, shame flickering across his face. "I don't know how to balance it all. But I know one thing, without her, all of this means nothing." Emma's chest constricted. She wanted to believe him, but trust wasn't rebuilt with words. It was earned in the quiet, in the everyday moments he had never been there for. She shook her head. "I can't let you hurt her. Not like you hurt me." Damien stepped closer, his voice breaking. "Emma, I was a fool. I thought success would fill the emptiness inside me. But it never did. You did. She does. Please, don't shut me out." For a long moment, Emma searched his eyes, looking for the arrogance, the indifference she had once known. But all she saw was raw desperation. Finally, she whispered, one step at a time, "For her, not for me." Damien nodded, relief flooding his features. For her, the weeks that followed were a delicate dance. Damien began meeting Lily at the park on weekends, sometimes walking her home afterward. He asked about her drawings, listened to her chatter, and even learned how she liked her sandwiches cut triangles, never squares. Slowly, tentatively, he began weaving himself into the fabric of her life, and Emma, though guarded, couldn't deny the change. She saw Damien kneel in the grass to tie Lily's shoes, heard his laughter when she beat him at a board game, watched his expression soften when she fell asleep in his arms. These weren't the gestures of a CEO, they were the actions of a father trying desperately to make up for lost time. Yet, Emma's walls remained. She couldn't forget the nights she cried, alone, the weight of bills crushing her, the emptiness of Damien's absence. Every smile he shared with Lily was a reminder of what he had taken from them. One evening, after a long day, Emma found herself sitting across from Damien at the kitchen table. Lily had begged him to stay for dinner, and Emma had reluctantly agreed. Now, as Lily slept in the next room, the silence between them was thick. Damien broke it first. "I don't expect you to forgive me. Not now, maybe not ever. But Emma, I'm not going anywhere this time." Emma stared at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "You already left once. That's enough to last a lifetime." Damien's gaze softened. "Then let me spend the rest of mine proving I won't again." Emma looked away, tears threatening to fall. She didn't answer. Not yet, but for the first time in years, she allowed him to stay a little longer. The fragile arrangement between Emma and Damien held for several weeks. It was a strange balance. Weekends at the park, dinners occasionally shared at Emma's small apartment, brief conversations exchanged in hallways and doorways where unspoken words hung heavy in the air. Lily flourished under the attention, her smile wider, her laughter brighter. But for Emma, the change was far more complicated. Every time Damien showed up, part of her bristled with anger. Where had this devotion been 7 years ago, when she needed him most? Every time she saw Lily's joy in his presence, part of her heart cracked, knowing she couldn't erase the years of absence. And yet, another part of her, one she hated to admit existed, softened at the sight of him kneeling on the floor, letting Lily braid his hair with plastic clips, or reading her favorite bedtime story in a voice that shook with emotion. But reality was not kind enough to let them live in peace. Damien's empire demanded him. Late-night phone calls interrupted dinners. Urgent meetings pulled him away from weekends. Once, after promising Lily he would be at her school art show, a sudden bored crisis left her searching the crowd in vain, her small face falling when she realized he wasn't coming. Emma's fury erupted that night. She found Damien waiting outside the apartment, his expression weary but hopeful. "Emma, don't," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut. "Don't you dare say you're sorry." She sat there for 2 hours. "Damien, 2 hours, waiting for you to show." Do you know what she said when we came home? She said maybe her dad doesn't really want her after all. Damien's face paled. "Emma, you think you can just waltz in now and fix everything with a few playground trips and bedtime stories? She's not a business deal you can negotiate your way out of. She's a child, and she deserves better than broken promises." His shoulders sagged, shame washing over him. I know, I failed tonight. But please, Emma, don't take her away from me." "I'll do better. I swear I'll do better." Emma's hands trembled, her anger fueled by years of buried hurt. "That's what terrifies me, Damien. That I'll let you in, that I'll let her love you. And then you'll shatter her the way you shattered me." Damien's eyes glistened, his voice cracking. "I'll spend every day proving I won't." Emma turned away, unable to face the raw vulnerability in his gaze. She slammed the door, leaning against it, tears streaming down her face as Lily's soft snores drifted from the bedroom. The next day, Lily refused to speak to Damien when he arrived. She sat on the park bench with her arms crossed, her gaze fixed on the ground. "Sweetheart," Damien said gently, kneeling before her. "I'm so sorry I missed your art show. I wanted to be there more than anything." "You weren't," Lily said flatly. "You promised, and you broke it." Damien's heart clenched. He reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. "I don't want to talk to you," she muttered. "Not today." Emma stood nearby, watching with a mixture of sorrow and grim vindication. Part of her wanted to intervene, to ease the pain on both their faces. But another part whispered that this was reality, that Damien needed to feel the consequences of his absence, just as she had felt them for years. That night, Damien sat alone in his penthouse, the city lights sprawling endlessly beneath him. For the first time in his life, the empire he had built felt like chains around his neck. All the power, all the wealth, and yet he couldn't fix the one thing that mattered most: his daughters. Trust. He poured a glass of whiskey, but didn't drink it. Instead, he picked up his phone and stared at Emma's number, his thumb hovering. At last, he typed a message. "I don't deserve another chance, but please let me try anyway." For her. For us. Emma read the message hours later, sitting at the kitchen table with bills scattered before her. She didn't reply, but deep down, she knew the battle wasn't just between Damien and Lily. It was between the woman she had become, independent, guarded, and the girl she once was, who had loved Damien with every fiber of her being, and she wasn't sure which of them would win. Asterisk. The following weeks became a test of endurance for Emma, for Damien, and especially for Lily. Damien showed up consistently now. He rearranged meetings, pushed aside contracts, and angered more than a few board members by refusing to miss another moment with his daughter. But Emma remained cautious. She let him take Lily to the park, allowed him to join them for dinner. Yet every step forward was shadowed by her fear of history repeating itself. One Saturday afternoon, Damien arrived at the apartment carrying a box. Lily rushed to the door, curiosity written all over her face. "What's that?" she asked. Damien smiled, setting it on the table. "Something for you." "Open it." Inside was a small wooden easel, a set of paints, and a fresh sketchbook. Lily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "It's for me." "Of course," Damien said, his voice thick with emotion. "Every artist needs the right tools." Lily threw her arms around him. "Thank you, Daddy." Emma stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her heart aching. She wanted to protest, to remind him that gifts couldn't replace years of absence, but when she saw Lily's radiant joy, the words died in her throat. Later that evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Emma confronted him. "You can't just buy her love, Damien. She doesn't need things, she needs stability." Damien met her gaze steadily. "I know this isn't about money. It's about showing her I see her, that I care about what she loves. I don't want to replace the years I missed. I just want to be here now." Emma's lips trembled, her defenses weakening for a brief moment. She hated how much she wanted to believe him, but storms gathered in the shadows. Damien's sudden devotion had not gone unnoticed by the press. Paparazzi had begun following him more closely, curious about the mysterious woman and child he had been seen with in quiet corners of the city. One blurry photo, published in a gossip column, showed Damien holding Lily's hand as they left the park. When Emma saw the article, her blood ran cold. The headline screamed, "Who is the secret child of billionaire Damien Stone?" That night, she confronted him outside the apartment, fury blazing in her eyes. "Do you see what you've done? You've put her in the spotlight. She's 7 years old, Damien. She's not a headline. She's not your scandal." Damien's expression was stricken. "Emma, I didn't call them. I swear I didn't. I would never expose her like that." "But you did," Emma snapped. "Just by being you. This is her life now." Whispers, cameras, strangers asking questions she doesn't understand. "This is exactly why I kept her away from you. Damien's voice broke. Please don't take her from me again. I'll handle it. I'll make it go away. I'll protect her. Emma shook her head, tears spilling. You can't protect her from who you are. That's the problem. The words cut deep, but Damien didn't walk away. He stood there, his shoulders heavy with defeat, his eyes fixed on the door even after Emma slammed it shut. Inside, Emma leaned against the doorframe, trembling. She wanted to keep Lily safe, but she also saw the way her daughter glowed around Damien, how much she had come to love him. And Emma knew the cruel truth, no matter how much she wanted to control the story. It was already unraveling. The breaking point came when Lily, one night before bed, asked the question Emma had dreaded most. "Mum," she whispered, clutching her stuffed rabbit, "why can't Daddy live with us?" Emma froze. She brushed her daughter's hair gently, stalling. "Sweetheart, families come in different shapes. Sometimes mums and dads don't live together, but he wants to," Lily said earnestly. "I can tell. And you still look at him funny, like you're sad. I don't understand. Don't you want us all together?" Emma's throat tightened, her heart torn. How could she explain years of betrayal to a child who only saw love? How could she admit that the walls around her heart were built not just to protect herself, but to protect Lily from the man who had already broken her once? She kissed Lily's forehead, whispering, "Sleep now, baby. We'll talk about it another time." But she knew the time was running out. Choices would have to be made, choices that could heal or destroy them all. The days after the article felt like living under a storm cloud. Paparazzi began appearing outside Emma's apartment, their cameras flashing as soon as she stepped out with Lily. Neighbors whispered. Cars slowed down near the curb, and Lily, bewildered by the attention, clung tighter to her mother's side. Emma did her best to shield her, walking with her head high, but inside, her fear gnawed deeper with each passing day. She had built her life on quietness, on stability, and now that sanctuary was collapsing. One evening, Damien appeared at the door, his tie loosened, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "Emma," he said softly, "pack a bag. I've rented a house outside the city, somewhere private, away from all this noise. Let me take care of you both." Emma's arms crossed defensively. "And what happens when the press finds that too? You can't run from your name, Damien. It follows you everywhere." His jaw clenched. "Then let it follow me. But it doesn't have to follow Lily. I'll make sure of it." Before Emma could argue, Lily appeared behind her, her eyes wide and pleading. "Mom, please. I don't like the cameras. Can we go, just for a little while?" Emma's heart cracked. She wanted to say no, to keep control, but looking at her daughter's frightened face, she could only nod. The house was tucked away in the countryside, surrounded by tall trees and rolling hills. For the first time in weeks, Emma breathed without weight on her chest. Lily ran across the wide lawn, her laughter carrying through the air as Damien followed. Pretending to stumble clumsily to make her giggle louder. At night, they sat by the fireplace. Lily painted on her new easel while Damien read aloud from her favorite book. Emma watched them, torn between awe and terror. This was everything she had ever wanted, a family whole again. And yet, the fear of losing it all once more loomed like a shadow she couldn't dispel. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Damien turned to Emma. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a deep vulnerability. "Emma," he said, "I know I can't erase the years I missed. I know I failed you, but these weeks, being with you both. It's the first time I've felt alive in years. I want this. I want us. Please, don't shut me out." Emma's throat tightened. "You make it sound so simple, but it's not. You don't understand the nights I stayed awake, terrified about money, about sickness, about everything. And all the while, you were untouchable in your world of power and wealth. I can't just forget that." Damien stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I don't want you to forget. I just want you to see that I'm not the same man anymore. I would burn everything I have to keep you and Lily safe." His words pierced through her walls, but fear still held her back. She turned away, whispering, "Don't promise me things you can't keep." But Damien's answer was firm. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can." The next morning brought chaos. Lily collapsed while playing in the garden, clutching her chest, her face pale. Emma screamed, rushing to her side. Damien swept her into his arms, his heart hammering in terror. At the hospital, doctors swarmed. Emma sat frozen in the waiting room, her hands shaking. Damien paced like a caged animal, his mind replaying every smile, every laugh, every daddy that had slipped from Lily's lips. He couldn't lose her. Not now. Not when he had only just found her. Hours later, the doctor emerged. "She's stable for now, but her condition requires immediate surgery. The problem is rare, and we'll need a specific blood type for transfusion. We've tested her mother. No match." Emma's eyes flew to Damien, her breath catching. The doctor nodded. "You're the only possible candidate." The weight of it struck Damien like lightning. Without hesitation, he rolled up his sleeve. "Take whatever you need. Take it all." As he lay in the donor bed, the needle in his arm, Damien closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he prayed. Not for wealth, not for power, but for his daughter's life. Emma watched through the glass as Damien gave his blood, his face pale but resolute. Her heart swelled with conflicting emotions, fear, love, guilt, and an ache so deep it nearly broke her. This man, who had once left her shattered, was now the very reason their daughter had a chance to live when Damien emerged. Weak but steady, Emma reached for his hand without thinking. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming. Damien squeezed her hand gently. "She's our daughter, Emma. I'd give my life for her." At that moment, Emma realized the truth. She could no longer deny the bond between them. But whether it would heal them or destroy them remained uncertain. The surgery lasted for hours. Emma sat in the waiting room, her nails bitten to the quick, her heart pounding with every tick of the clock. Damien, still weak from the transfusion, refused to rest. He stood by the window, pale and drained, but unmovable. When the doors finally opened, the surgeon stepped out, removing his mask. The procedure was successful. "Your daughter is stable now. She'll need time to recover, but she's out of danger." Emma collapsed into the nearest chair, sobbing in relief. Damien's knees buckled, and he pressed a trembling hand to his face, silent tears sliding down his cheeks. Together, they walked into the room where Lily lay sleeping, small and fragile but alive. Tubes and monitors surrounded her, but the gentle rise and fall of her chest was the most beautiful sight Emma had ever seen. Damien pulled a chair close, his large hand dwarfing Lily's as he held it tenderly. "Daddy's here," he whispered, his voice raw. "I'll never leave you again." Emma stood on the other side, brushing the hair from Lily's forehead. For a long moment, the three of them were united in silence. bound by fear, love, and the miracle of survival. Days passed in the hospital. Damien stayed by Lily's side, ignoring calls from his board, cancelling meetings, and silencing the world that demanded his attention. Emma watched him, seeing not the billionaire, not the man who had once broken her, but a father, stripped bare, desperate to hold on to his child. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the room in golden light, Emma stepped out into the hallway. Damien followed her, his movements slow but determined. "She's stronger every day," he said quietly. "She's a fighter, just like her mum." Emma's eyes glistened. "I almost lost her. If you hadn't been here," her voice broke. "I don't even want to think about it." Damien reached out, but hesitated. "Emma, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but let me stand beside you. Let me be the man you and Lily need." Emma looked at him for a long time, her heart in turmoil. She had spent years protecting herself, burying the pain he caused. But now, seeing him like this, she couldn't deny that he had changed. "And yet, I'm scared, Damien," she whispered. "Scared that if I open the door, you'll hurt us again, and I don't think I could survive it twice." Damien's voice cracked. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I won't, please. Emma, don't shut me out." Her tears fell freely, but she said nothing. Weeks later, Lily was discharged, her laughter returning little by little. Damien carried her out of the hospital, her small arms wrapped around his neck. Cameras waited at the gates, flashes erupting, but this time Damien didn't flinch. He shielded Lily with his body, guiding Emma firmly through the crowd. At home, things felt different. Damien spent more time at the apartment, cooking simple meals, reading bedtime stories, walking Lily to school. The neighbors whispered, the city speculated, but inside those walls, the three of them began to carve a fragile peace. Still, Emma's heart wrestled with doubt. One night, as Lily slept, she sat across from Damien at the small kitchen table. "You'll go back eventually," she said softly. "Back to your world, your company, and we'll be left here again." Damien shook his head. "Emma, I've already made my choice. I don't care if I lose everything else. None of it matters without you too." Emma stared at him, searching for any trace of the man she had once known, the man who had chosen power over love. But all she saw was sincerity, worn into his tired face, shining in his eyes. Yet fate was cruel. A week later, Damien collapsed in his office, his body weakened by stress and the toll of the transfusion. Doctors diagnosed complications. His health was failing faster than expected. When Emma rushed to his side, he managed a faint smile. "I guess I wasn't as strong as I thought." Emma gripped his hand tightly, tears spilling. "Don't you dare leave us now. Not after everything." Damien's gaze shifted to Lily, who stood by the bed, her small face pale with fear. "Sweetheart," he whispered, "no matter what happens, I'll always be with you. In every heartbeat, in every dream." "Daddy, no," Lily sobbed, clutching his arm. "You can't go." He stroked her hair gently, his voice breaking. "I'll fight, I promise. For you, for Mum, for us." The story ends not with perfection, but with a fragile, trembling hope. Damien's future remained uncertain, his health a question mark hanging over their lives. But in that uncertainty, Emma finally saw the truth. Love wasn't about guarantees. It was about choosing each other day after day. No matter the fear, One evening, as the three of them sat together, Lily nestled between her parents, Emma whispered, "Whatever comes, we face it together." Damien's hand found hers, squeezing softly. "Together," he echoed, and for the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to believe, not in fairy tales, not in promises of forever, but in the quiet, fragile strength of a family rebuilt, not unbreakable, but real.